I love Instagram Reels. It's got an immense amount of like weirdos.
You'd think that a social media algorithm would figure out the things that you like and focus on serving you as much of that content as possible. That's how TikTok and YouTube work anyway. But there's one place I've noticed where the conventional rules of social media don't seem to apply, where the weirdest stuff from the most random people will pop into your feed with no rhyme or reason.
Have a nice day.
That place is Instagram Reels.
Friday crazy night.
No more saying cuss words, guys.
Mystery is intriguing. Reveal less to interest more.
What sets Instagram Reels apart from its competitors is its completely unhinged algorithm that seems to go out of its way to promote cursed content. At least that's my experience and the experience of my guest today, Katie Notopoulos. Katie is a senior correspondent at Business Insider, and maybe together we can get to the bottom of why Meta, the biggest social media company in the world, made something like this. Katie, welcome to Power User.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so Instagram Reels launched about 4 years ago. It was ostensibly launched to compete with TikTok, YouTube Shorts, this boom in short form video that we saw. But since then, it's kind of emerged as this unique, weird, distinct place on the internet. So I wanted to talk to you about that today. To start things off, what is your current experience of Instagram Reels like?
So I love Instagram Reels. I am like the number one Instagram Reels fan.
Literally have never heard this sentence before in my life.
I swear I love it more than TikTok, which I thought was never possible when it first launched. When it first launched, I thought it was so stupid. And now it's got, for me at least, and obviously like everyone's experience is very different, but I can tell that other people are seeing some of the same stuff that I'm seeing. It's got an immense amount of like weirdos. And I guess I should qualify that with like people who are actually weird, but also a lot of people who it seems like they aren't trying to like post professionally like normies. But I like love that. And then mixed into that, there are people who are sort of trying to do it professionally, but they're weird. Like,
I feel like I've seen so much conversation about this online. I mean, I run a couple meme pages, and this is like a frequent topic of discussion among people that I would say use Instagram more heavily than maybe the average users. I don't think you're the only one that feels like Instagram Reels is a separate portal with weird content that you are not going to see elsewhere.
Yeah.
I see a lot of like children that are like hustle pilled kind of like 14-year-olds trying to become, you know, the next drop shipping millionaire. There's a lot of religious content on there.
yeah.
And then there's a lot of sort of like stuff I would just describe as like brain rot almost, like just nonsensical stuff.
It's all fringe and cringe.
That is the best way to put it. It's fringe and cringe.
Yeah, that's like all I see on my feed is fringe and cringe.
Of course, you're going to see the re-uploaded TikToks. But then you have this stuff from people that I don't think have ever posted on TikTok.
Yeah. And that makes sense in one way, which is that, you know, we're talking about Reels as if it's its own distinct app, and it's not. It's just part of Instagram. And one thing that I sort of forget is that if you post a video to Instagram and you think it's the year 2018 and you think that video is just going to go onto your feed and be shown to your friends, like that is not how it works anymore, right? Like a video on Instagram, it now gets sucked into this like totally new world called Reels and like is completely algorithmically blasted out to strangers. And I think that's partly why you're seeing so many like bizarre normie posts by people who are like, you know, sometimes I look at the accounts of people that I'm getting shown stuff by and they have like 10 followers. They've posted twice.
Same.
Like I'll look at a video and there's like 30 views on it. I'm like, how did I get picked for this one thing? And it'll
It
be
feels
like
you're discovering something. Though.
yeah.
Like
It does.
It's
and I
so
love
rare.
that. That's like, to me, that's like the magic of the internet is like, I can look at other people like doing whatever they're doing. I love that.
I'm with you. I there's a divorced dad. I think I've posted him on my story before that I think has like less than 2,000 followers. And he just sort of posts he's very thirsty, you know, like he's like looking
I think
to
I've seen this guy. I feel like,
am
is he always
obsessed
like
with him.
posting like, or he'll be in like, I want to say he's like kind of got like some sort of cowboy outfit kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like he'll be like, are you looking for a divorced dad who just wants to like tell you you're pretty? And like, or like really like sweet romantic stuff, but he's like really like normal looking. Like he looks
Well,
like
the
a guy
videos
from your
have
hometown, you know?
less than 100 views. This man has barely 2,000 followers. And like, for some reason, I started getting his content and I think it's so endearing. Like there's something about the fact that like, there's this sense of discovery. It's so rare to see anything on the internet now that doesn't already have 100,000 views by the time it's served to you.
Yeah.
I don't think Instagram is doing this on purpose. I think that the reason Reels discovery is sort of so strange and different from TikTok and YouTube is that they actually have a worse recommendation system. How intentional do you think this is on Meta's part?
I don't think the experience that you and I are having where we're seeing like randos with 10 views and we like are rolling in it, loving in it. I don't think that's Meta's ideal experience, right? My theory is that they sort of have two things going on. One is like the supply and the control of the supply. One, the supply of videos is just kind of different than TikTok because of the way that people are historically used to posting on Instagram. Like the supply of videos is just different. And then the way that they're sort of controlling it, the algorithm feels more reactive than TikTok. And if you're a heavy TikTok user, you probably know that like, oh, if I click on this one video of like 80, you know, a Def Leppard clip from the 80s, I'm going to all of a sudden start seeing like tons of 80s hair metal music or whatever. But that'll fade away once it becomes clear you're not interested in like that much of it. On Instagram, it's hair trigger reactive to what you're like lingering or liking or commenting or like any sort of interaction you give the video, including watching the video in full length. It's like, it's not just like, would you like a second helping? It's like, take all of it. This is now you. Like it's really reactive in that way. And I feel like people feel like they can control their algorithm in that way. Like it almost reminds me of like, you know, in The Sorcerer's Apprentice when like Mickey's got all the buckets and the brooms.
Oh, like Fantasia.
Yeah. And there's like, he's like sort of like making the mops like all of a sudden, it's like, it almost feels like you can do that, but the mops are like videos of 50-year-old men just staring at the camera blankly, wordlessly with 10 followers. Like you can trick your algorithm into getting like 20 of those in a row.
What is maybe your second theory on why Instagram Reels is the way it is?
So they made a change. Adam Mosseri, the head of Instagram, announced this, I think, May 1st. So it's sort of been rolling out. It's not completely rolled out yet. That I feel like it seemed like a minor change, but his description of how it actually works is actually pretty huge, I think. And it, in my opinion, explains some of this stuff. So his whole idea is like, we want to help small time creators get more views instead of our previous algorithm, which really benefited big creators. So it used to be that, and I think I'm understanding this correctly, that when you made a post, it first sort of went into this like farm league bucket where it only your followers would see your content. And if your content was performing well amongst your followers, getting likes and comments or whatnot,
then it would be distributed outside of
right.
them.
It would sort of, it would get kicked over to the recommendations.
But it was always starting with followers and it was always weighted very heavily towards followers. And so it privileged creators that had these massive Instagram audiences already.
Right. And so then they made this change saying, we want to get rid of the farm league. As soon as you post, bam, recommendation engine. Any post can be recommended to strangers. You don't have to, it doesn't have to like perform well among your followers first. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of this weird content that has very few views, very few likes, followers, like from seemingly really, really random people. I think that probably has something to do with it, is my theory.
So when we look at sort of this landscape of social platforms and how they've evolved, obviously Instagram has gone through so many shifts over the years. How do you think that these changes are affecting the broader platform and like where it stands in its evolution?
I feel like it's at a sort of growing pain stage right now where this weird moment, I don't think it's going to last very long on Instagram. I think that it's going to get these weird rough edges that we're seeing will probably get smoothed out somehow, and it'll start to look as slick and professional as the other apps sometime in the next year or so. We won't see so much like weird, what the heck am I seeing kind of content.
I think users want serendipity. And I think that's what Reels has accidentally built into its algorithm, almost by being bad at recommendations.
Yeah.
It's kind of allowed for this thing that I think we kind of associate with the early internet before algorithmic feeds.
Yeah. I mean, I do think this is like a kind of existential question for Instagram, though, of like,
yeah,
I feel like what I've seen a lot of is these complaints from people who want to be creators, who want to get a lot of views, saying, why won't you show my followers my posts anymore? I'm mad that I don't get as many, you know, I'm not getting as much as I used to be. And you know, you're hearing those loud voices because they're loud voices, right? And what you're not seeing is like the people who just want to post to their 50 friends, and they're not really trying to do that much more than that. And Instagram used to be a place where you just posted to your friends and you weren't trying to consume creators. And so how does it balance its history as a place for friends with its sort of future of being for creators?
I know that you've been reporting on this and writing about it for Business Insider. What else did you find in your reporting on this phenomenon?
There are a couple trends I've seen in sort of commenter behavior. One is on these weird videos. Often I'll look at the comments because I'm like, what are people saying? And you'll see over and over and over again, and you might notice this if you see a weird video and you're like, what am I seeing? People go mythical real pull, or like mythical epic, you know, gold foil real pull. I love that phrase because the idea is like the algorithm spun the wheel and you just happen to land on this one wacky thing. The other thing that is distressing and not great, and I think probably a big problem for Meta, is like in general, I think the Instagram comments are way meaner than TikTok.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I think they're vicious and cruel in a way that is so crazy because Meta, as we know, has the strictest community guidelines on the planet. And yet no one is cyberbullied worse than somebody that posts the wrong reel and gets some comments.
So I see a lot of like children under 13, and technically they're not supposed to be on the app, but like we all know they are. I don't know what happens. They're not super young, but like, you know, it'll be sort of like an 11-year-old boy trying to make like a funny joke or something, and all the comments will be over and over again, try fentanyl.
Yeah.
And so much to the point where I was looking at one account for a child under 13, and the bio had been changed to say, I will not try fentanyl.
Why is that? It's so funny. That comment has been all over and such cruel stuff. Another one is show hog.
I'm sorry to laugh. That's like, it's not funny when you're saying it to a child. It's like, I sort of try to remember that probably the people commenting that are also teenagers, are also probably children. Teenage boys love making fun of cringe.
They love discovering cringe. They love making fun of cringe when really, you know, there's nothing more cringe than being a teenage boy. But it's
true.
Yeah, it's weird how cruel people are and how outright mean. And and I
like
think
Meta, I don't think likes that, right? Like they don't like the fact that there are children being bullied on their app. They don't like the fact that there's, you know, like this is a terrible experience for everybody involved, including Adam Masari.
Yeah. Although they don't seem to ever want to do anything about it other than ban every word under the sun. Like their content moderation systems are so blunt and so inept. Mm-hmm. And in some sense, not to sympathize with this, you know, terribly massive, problematic tech company. But I do feel like they were so lambasted by the media for not being like safe enough, you know, that they rolled out this really blunt and sort of terrible content moderation policies to try to make it like, look at the media, look, we're making it safer. But it really hasn't made it safer because kids are just getting cyberbullied relentlessly all day, as are just like random people every day, thanks to the Reels algorithm. If you were to give us a little bit of a prediction of where you see Instagram Reels in the next, say, 3 years, how do you see it evolving?
I don't know. I mean, like the worry I have is that like, you know, all these all these apps kind of want to go the safest route, which is like try to look a little bit more like traditional entertainment, right? It's kind of like how Linda Yaccarino really wants to get like more sports clips onto X, or, you know, things like that, having, you know, more like traditional celebrities posting stuff, more like traditional longer, you know, looking a little bit more like YouTube, where it's actually like a longer format instead of like weirdo videos. There was a moment where I thought Instagram was like, oh man, that's just like, it's dying out, right? Like it's lost its way, and it actually like kind of hasn't. Like its numbers are back up, things are going well on Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that actually. I mean, Facebook revenue went up 22% recently, and analysts cited Reels as a major part of that. I mean, one thing that I think is going to change when it comes to Reels in the next few years is ads. We're just seeing a lot more ads interjected. I think it's going to be time to turn on the monetization engine for that feature in a really major way.
Yeah, that actually is. I realized that my sort of flip of enjoyment between TikTok and Reels kind of coincided with when the TikTok shop launched, and all of a sudden it seemed like I just kind of started enjoying TikTok less, where it just seemed like so much ads and shop content. And then Reels at the time was like completely ad free. Now occasionally I see like a little ad at the bottom or something. But yeah, I think that eventually it will be more of that.
I just want the weird. I want them to keep it weird. Keep Instagram weird.
I know. I can't believe that like Instagram is like the weird place. But here we are.
Here we are. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thank you so much for having me.
And please continue to send me all of the weirdest Reels that you see.
Oh, I will.
All right, that's the show. You can watch full episodes on my YouTube channel at Taylor Lorenz. Power User is produced by Travis Larchuk and Jelani Carter. Our video editor is Brandon Kiefer. Our executive producer is Zach Mack. Power User is part of the Vox Media Podcast Network. If you like the show, give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We'll see you next week for a brand new episode of Power User.